It took me 25 years to realize what I'll tell you in 10 minutes. How many times have you told yourself, I'll be happy when you get that dream job, when you finally make 6 figures, when you meet the right person, when life slows down, when everything finally falls into place? But let me ask you, how long have you been waiting? A year? 5? 10? And here's the brutal truth. That moment will never come. You will always be chasing something. The next promotion, the bigger house, the perfect relationship, the recognition you think will finally make you feel enough. But when you get there, will you finally feel at peace? No, because by the time you reach that goal, another one will take its place. You will keep running, convincing yourself that fulfillment is just around the corner. And in the process, you are wasting the most valuable years of your life. I spent over 25 years falling for this lie, postponing my happiness, waiting for life to start, but I refuse to let you do the same. In the next 10 minutes, I'll break down the hard truth most people ignore, the truth that can set you free. If you're tired of waiting, if you're done putting off your own life, this is your wake-up call. If this message resonates with you, help me spread it. Like this video, share it. Subscribe to Victory Stoic, because the world needs more people who live with clarity, not illusion. And drop a comment below. Tell me the dream you've been waiting for, or type, I refuse to wait, if you're ready to take control. Let's get started. Number 1, the biggest mistake, believing that happiness comes after success. For years, I lived under a dangerous illusion, the belief that happiness was something I had to earn, that it was waiting for me at the finish line, just beyond the next goal, the next achievement, the next version of myself. Once I fix my life, once I become successful, then I'll be happy. That's what I told myself. That's what so many people tell themselves. And that's one of the biggest lies we ever believe. At my lowest point, my life was a complete wreck. I was overweight, unemployed, and spent my days glued to a screen, numbing myself with video games, avoiding any responsibility. I lived with my parents, drowning in self-pity, afraid to talk to people, especially women. My confidence was non-existent. Every day felt like a blur of wasted hours, and deep down, I hated myself for it. But I had a plan. I convinced myself that if I could just fix everything, then my happiness would follow. Lose the weight, get a job, become more confident, then I'd finally feel fulfilled. So I did it. I stopped making excuses and took action. I cleaned up my diet, hit the gym, and watched the number on the scale drop. I applied for jobs, faced rejection, kept pushing, and eventually landed a position that paid me enough to stand on my own 2 feet. I forced myself into social situations, practiced communication, and little by little became more confident. I was finally winning, and for a while it felt incredible. That first wave of progress, it was intoxicating. Every improvement gave me a dopamine hit. Every success made me feel like I was one step closer to real happiness. I thought I had cracked the code, but then something happened. The excitement faded. The goals I had once obsessed over, I had achieved them, but the deep, lasting fulfillment I had expected, it wasn't there. Instead, there was just another goal, another thing to achieve, another thing to fix. The finish line kept moving, and I realized something brutal. I had spent years believing in an illusion. The Stoics understood this over 2,000 years ago. Seneca warned that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. We build up these grand ideas of the future, believing that once we arrive, we'll finally be at peace. But the mind doesn't work that way. The moment you reach a goal, your brain immediately shifts its focus to the next problem, the next target. You become a prisoner to your own endless chase. If you don't learn to find peace in the present, you'll never find it in the future. I learned this lesson the hard way, but I wasn't alone. A close friend of mine, let's call him Jake, went through the same cycle. He grew up poor and convinced himself that making money would solve everything. He worked himself to exhaustion, built a business from scratch, and eventually started making 6 figures. But when we caught up years later, I saw something shocking. He was just as anxious, just as restless as before. His goals had shifted. Now it wasn't just about money, It was about status, influence, outpacing his competition. He had more than he ever dreamed of, but he still felt empty. Because happiness isn't a destination, it's a discipline. The Stoics taught that external success is nothing without inner mastery. If you don't learn to cultivate contentment now, you never will. You'll just keep running, always believing that fulfillment is just one step ahead, but never quite reaching it. I wasted years learning this. Don't make the same mistake. Happiness isn't waiting for you in some perfect future. It's something you must build, right here, right now. Number 2, life has no finish line. We like to believe that there's a final destination, some moment in the future where everything will finally feel complete. We tell ourselves that once we reach a certain level of success, once we achieve that one big goal, we'll be able to rest, to breathe, to finally feel like we've made it. But here's the truth. That moment doesn't exist. Happiness and success are not milestones you reach. They are an ongoing process, a never-ending journey. You climb one mountain only to realize there's another peak waiting for you. You hit one goal and suddenly a bigger one appears. The finish line keeps moving, and if you don't recognize this, you'll spend your entire life chasing something you can never catch. Think about the people you admire, the ones who seem to have everything. Do they stop once they've made it? The millionaire wants to become a billionaire. The athlete who wins a championship immediately starts preparing for the next season. The entrepreneur who builds a successful company doesn't retire. They find the next challenge. There is no final moment of arrival. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote that life is not about external rewards, but about how we engage with each moment. If you're constantly fixated on a future goal, you'll never truly live. You'll always be in a state of almost happy, almost fulfilled, almost enough, but never quite there. So what's the solution? Stop running toward a finish line that doesn't exist. Instead, learn to find joy in the process. If you're climbing, climb because you love the challenge. If you're building, build because you find meaning in the work itself. Not because you think the end result will magically fulfill you. Because if you don't, you'll wake up one day and realize you've spent your entire life waiting to be happy, only to find that you never truly lived. Number 3, perfection doesn't exist. And if you chase it, you'll never feel enough. Let me hit you with a cold, hard truth. Perfection is an illusion. It doesn't exist, never has, never will. Yet most people waste their lives chasing it, convincing themselves that if they just refine, tweak, and improve enough, they'll finally be satisfied. Spoiler alert, they won't. Why? Because perfection is a moving target. The moment you think you're close, it shifts. You finally get fit, but now you're worried about your abs not being defined enough. You get a high-paying job, but suddenly you're not successful enough compared to someone else. You improve your social skills, but now you overanalyze every conversation, wondering if you could have said something better. The cycle never ends. The Stoics knew this thousands of years ago. Seneca said, "While we waste our time hesitating and postponing, life is slipping away." Yet that's exactly what perfectionism does. It keeps you in a loop of hesitation. You don't start the business because it's not ready yet. You don't apply for the job because your resume isn't perfect. You don't take action because you convince yourself that one more tweak, one more adjustment, one more round of preparation will make everything flawless. But here's the brutal irony. While you wait for perfection, life moves on without you. I knew a guy, let's call him Kevin. Kevin was smart, ambitious, and full of great ideas, but he was also a perfectionist. Every project had to be polished to the point of obsession. He'd rewrite emails 10 times before sending them. He had a book idea but never wrote a single chapter because it wasn't the right time. Years passed, and guess what? He had nothing to show for it. Meanwhile, people with half his talent but twice his willingness to act were out there succeeding, not because they were perfect, but because they did something. And that's the secret. Action beats perfection. Every time. Look around. Have you ever seen a perfect relationship? A flawless career? A person with 0 flaws? Because the real world isn't designed for perfection. It's designed for progress. The only way to ever feel enough is to stop chasing an illusion and start embracing reality. So stop waiting. Stop overthinking. Stop convincing yourself that you need to be better before you start. Whatever it is you want to do, just begin. Because while you're busy perfecting, someone else is out there living. Number 4, action creates emotion, not the other way around. Let's get one thing straight. You are never going to feel ready. Never. Not today, not tomorrow, not 5 years from now. If you sit around waiting for some magical moment when motivation strikes, confidence kicks in, and the universe aligns in your favor, congratulations, you've just signed up for a lifetime membership to the club of people who never do shut. The problem? Most people think they need to feel motivated before they take action. They believe they need to be inspired before they start working out, need to be confident before they start talking to people, need to be excited before they start a new project. Wrong. Dead wrong. Here's the real formula. Action comes first. Feelings follow. The Stoics knew this. Epictetus said, if you want to be a writer, write. Not think about writing. Not wait for the right mood to write. Just write. Because action creates momentum, and momentum creates emotion. Let me prove it. Ever had a day when you absolutely did not want to work out, but you dragged yourself to the gym anyway, and 10 minutes in, you actually felt good? That's because action changed your emotional state, not the other way around. Or let's talk about public speaking. You think confident speakers are just born that way? They start out nervous, awkward, sweating through their shirts, but they keep talking. They push through, and over time, confidence follows. Not because they waited to feel ready, but because they acted despite feeling terrified. I knew a guy, let's call him Tom. Tom wanted to start a YouTube channel. He planned it, scripted it, made endless drafts, and spent months convincing himself that he needed to feel more prepared before he recorded his first video. Fast forward 2 years. Guess how many videos he had posted? 0. Meanwhile, someone with half his skill, but twice his willingness to act had already built a massive audience. That's how life works. The winners aren't the people who feel ready. They're the ones who act before they do. So stop waiting. Stop overthinking. Stop giving yourself permission to procrastinate under the disguise of preparing. You don't need motivation. You don't need confidence. You don't need to feel right. You just need to move. The feelings will catch up later. Number 5, time waits for no one, and you have less of it than you think. You think you have time? You don't. You never did. You never will. We live like we're immortal, like there will always be more time to start that business, to fix that broken relationship, to get in shape, to chase that dream we keep postponing. I'll do it next year. I'll start when I have more time. I'll get serious when I'm older. And then one day, you wake up and realize, time didn't wait for you. Look around. Everything is changing right in front of your eyes. The little nephew you used to carry on your shoulders. Now he's standing eye to eye with you, talking about his career plans. That tiny tree that barely reached your waist when you were a kid, it's now a towering giant, shading an entire street. The abandoned house you used to pass by, gone. Replaced by a modern park where kids play, kids who weren't even born when you first saw that house. The world doesn't stop. It grows, moves, evolves, while you sit there, waiting for the right time. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Not tomorrow, not next year." Now, because every single day that passes is a day you'll never get back, a day you either used well or wasted thinking you had more. I knew a guy, let's call him Alex. Alex always talked about starting his own business. He had the ideas, the passion, the vision, but he was waiting. I need to save more money first. I need to learn more. Maybe in a few years. Then one day, years later, he called me and said, "Dude, I blinked and I'm 40 and I still haven't started." That's how it happens. Not all at once, slowly, quietly, one tomorrow at a time. So let me ask you, how many more years are you going to waste waiting? How many more dreams will you bury under excuses? How much more time will you spend watching the world change while you stay exactly the same? Time doesn't wait. Either you start now, or you watch your life slip through your fingers, one ordinary, forgettable day at a time. Number 6, joy comes from progress, not the end result. Let's play a little game. Imagine you wake up tomorrow and, boom, you have everything you ever wanted. The perfect body, the dream job, the $1 million bank account, the perfect relationship. You didn't have to work for it, struggle for it, or push through any challenges. It's just there. Now tell me, how long do you think you'd stay happy? A month? A week? Try 3 days at best. Because here's the truth that nobody wants to admit. Happiness doesn't come from having something. It comes from becoming something. People think they want success, but what they really want is the feeling of progress. The sense that today they're a little stronger, a little smarter, a little better than they were yesterday. That's what keeps life exciting. That's what gives life meaning. The moment you reach the top, you don't feel fulfilled. You feel bored. And then you start looking for the next challenge. Because deep down, you know the journey is what makes it all worth it. The hamster wheel of success. Picture a hamster running on a wheel, sprinting like its life depends on it, convinced that if it just runs a little harder, a little faster, it'll finally reach the promised land. But guess what? It never does, because there is no finish line. Now replace the hamster with yourself. The wheel. That's life. You think once you get rich, once you get ripped, once you get that promotion, you'll finally feel satisfied. And for a moment you do. But then, you start running again. A new goal appears, a new thing to chase. The cycle repeats. The Stoics knew this all too well. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Why? Because the person who only finds happiness in results will never be satisfied. They'll always be chasing the next thing, never stopping to appreciate how far they've come. The friend who had it all and felt nothing. I once had a friend, let's call him Ryan. Ryan was obsessed with making it big. He worked like a maniac, grinding 12-hour days, sacrificing weekends, friendships, even his health, all for that one magical moment when he could finally say, "I made it." And then, he did. He sold his company for a ridiculous amount of money. He had everything: wealth, status, freedom. He should have been ecstatic. But when we met up months later, he looked miserable. "Dude, I don't get it," he told me. "I thought this would feel better." Because the excitement was never about having the money. It was about earning it. It was about the chase, the struggle, the late nights, the problem solving, the growth. The moment he had everything, the fire was gone. The solution? Learn to love the climb. Look, you can either be the person who only enjoys life when they win, which means you'll spend 99% of your time frustrated and impatient, or you can be the person who enjoys getting better every day, which means you get to feel fulfilled all the time. Want to get fit? Learn to love the gym, not just the six-pack. Want to build wealth? Enjoy the process of creating, learning, and growing, not just the number in your bank account. Want to be great at something? Find joy in the struggle, not just the applause. Because if you can't love the process, you'll never love the result. And that's the fastest way to waste your entire life, sprinting toward a finish line that doesn't even exist. Number 7, do small things every day instead of waiting for big opportunities. How many times have you said, "I'll start when the time is right"? You tell yourself that you need the perfect circumstances to take action, that everything has to line up just right before you can begin. So you wait and wait and wait some more. You plan, you strategize, you make lists. You tell yourself, when I have more money, more time, more knowledge, then I'll get started. But here's the hard truth. The perfect moment will never come. And by the time you realize that, you've spent your best years waiting for something that never existed. The key to success, happiness, and fulfillment doesn't lie in waiting for big opportunities. It lies in taking small actions every single day. One small step is worth more than 1,000 perfect plans that never leave the drawing board. I know, it sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? We're conditioned to believe that success comes from one major, game-changing breakthrough. We think that if we just land that one big deal, get that huge promotion, or have that mind-blowing epiphany, everything will fall into place. But the truth is, those big moments are often the result of small, consistent actions that add up over time. The power of small actions. Let me give you an example. Think about how a mountain is formed. It doesn't appear out of nowhere in one big, dramatic moment. It's a gradual process. Small, steady forces of nature working over millennia, bit by bit, eroding and shaping the landscape. The same goes for your life. The small actions you take today may seem insignificant, but over time, they build momentum. They shape your future. Think of the gym. You might not see immediate results from doing one push-up, but do that push-up every day, and in a month, you'll start noticing real changes. It's the same with reading. Reading one page a day doesn't sound like much, but over the course of a year, that adds up to a book every month. Over 5 years, that's over 60 books. Do you think your mindset, your knowledge, and your life would be different after reading 60 books? You bet it would. This is why the Stoics place such great emphasis on daily discipline. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, and the quality of your thoughts depends on the small, consistent actions you take each day." If you want to change your life, don't wait for a miracle. Start today. Take the small steps. They will compound into something much larger over time. The trap of waiting for the big break. I once had a friend, let's call him Andy, who was always waiting for the perfect opportunity to start his own business. He had tons of ideas, but he was waiting for the right time. He waited for everything to fall into place. The perfect business plan, the ideal financial situation, the perfect partner. He waited for everything to align perfectly before he took any real action. And guess what? Years went by. Andy never started that business. He kept waiting for the stars to align. Meanwhile, others who weren't waiting for the perfect moment took small steps and built successful companies from the ground up. By the time Andy was ready, he was so far behind that starting felt like an overwhelming task. The truth is, the perfect moment doesn't exist. Success comes from small, consistent actions over time. So start now. Do something, anything. Take that first step, no matter how small it seems. The importance of daily discipline. Remember, big things don't happen overnight. It's the little things you do every day that shape your future. Whether it's writing 200 words a day, saving a small amount of money every month, or taking 5 minutes to meditate, these small, seemingly insignificant actions add up. The more you focus on these small actions, the less you'll rely on waiting for some big breakthrough. In fact, when you're consistent with the small things, those big opportunities will start finding you, because you'll be prepared, you'll be in motion, and you'll have built a solid foundation. So stop waiting. Start today. Take the small steps. You'll be amazed at how much they add up over time. Number 8, stop comparing yourself to others. Your happiness has nothing to do with them. Let's be real. Comparison is a disease, and in today's world, it's a pandemic. You open social media, and suddenly it feels like everyone has more than you. Someone's on a luxury vacation while you're stuck in traffic. Someone just bought a brand new car while you're hoping your old one makes it another year. Someone is getting married, building a business, living their best life. And there you are, wondering why you're so far behind. But let me ask you something. Who set the rules for this race you think you're losing? You were never meant to live on someone else's timeline. You were never meant to measure your happiness based on how much shinier someone else's life looks. And that's the key word, looks. Because most of the time, what you see is an illusion, the social media illusion. Nobody posts their failures. Nobody shares the nights they cried themselves to sleep, the deals that fell through, the relationships that crumbled, the doubts that keep them awake at night. You're comparing your raw, unfiltered reality to someone else's highlight reel. The Stoics knew this long before Instagram existed. Epictetus said, "How long will you wait before you demand the best of yourself and trust reason to determine what is best?" Notice he didn't say, "Trust society to tell you what is best." Your life is yours. The only comparison that matters is the one between you yesterday and you today. The story of two neighbors. Imagine two neighbors, John and Mike. John makes $50,000 a year and is completely happy. He has a simple home, a loving family, and enjoys his work. He doesn't need much. Then one day, Mike moves in next door. Mike makes $500,000 a year, drives a sports car, and has a pool in his backyard. Suddenly, John feels poor. Nothing in John's life has changed, except for his perception of it. Yesterday, he was happy. Today, he feels like a failure. Did John's happiness actually decrease? Number. But the moment he started measuring his life against Mike's, he lost sight of everything he already had. This is what comparison does. It tricks you into believing that your life isn't enough, when it already is. You are running your own race. I knew a guy, we'll call him Alex. Alex had a great job, but he made the mistake of constantly comparing himself to a friend from college who became a millionaire. Every time he saw his friend post about traveling the world, driving expensive cars, or growing his company, Alex felt like a failure. Why am I not at his level, he would ask. But here's the funny part. His friend was miserable, stressed, burned out, and dealing with a failing marriage. But you wouldn't know that from his Instagram. This is why you must focus on your own life. What do you actually want? What makes you feel fulfilled? Because if you don't decide for yourself, the world will decide for you. And trust me, the world doesn't care about your happiness. It cares about keeping you chasing things you don't need. The only comparison that matters. Here's the only question you need to ask yourself. Are you better than the person you were yesterday? That's it. If the answer is yes, you're winning. If the answer is no, then fix it. But stop measuring your life against someone else's scoreboard. Because if you keep comparing, you'll spend your entire life chasing ghosts, always running, never arriving. Number 9, enjoy the small things because they are the big things. We live in a world that glorifies bigger, better, faster, more. More money, more success, more excitement, more achievement. We tell ourselves that happiness is in the grand, life-changing moments, the big promotions, the dream vacations, the massive wins. But in chasing these, we forget one brutal truth. Life is happening right now, and if you're not careful, you'll miss it. You think happiness is in some distant future when you finally make it? Number. It's in this moment, in the tiny, seemingly insignificant experiences that most people overlook. The beauty in the ordinary, the warm aroma of coffee in the morning, the quiet stillness of the world before everyone wakes up. The way the sunlight hits your desk just right, the simple joy of a great conversation, the feeling of stretching after a long day, the laughter that sneaks up on you when you least expect it. These are not just small things. These are life itself. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Seneca wrote, "Enjoy present pleasures in such a way as not to injure future ones." In other words, stop racing through life in pursuit of some grand moment. Instead, slow down and actually experience what's happening right now. The man who had everything and nothing. I once knew a man, we'll call him David. David was successful by every definition. Money? He had more than he could ever spend. Career? He was at the top. Recognition? People admired him. But David was miserable. Why? Because he only knew how to chase the next big thing. He couldn't sit still. He couldn't appreciate a quiet afternoon or a simple meal. Every moment had to be optimized, productive, leading to something greater. And because of that, no moment was ever enough. He had spent his whole life sprinting toward the future, and in doing so, he had completely missed the present. The secret to a meaningful life. Happiness isn't hidden in some milestone you haven't reached yet. It's in the way you eat your next meal. It's in how you listen when someone talks to you. It's in the feeling of fresh air on your face when you step outside. If you don't learn to enjoy these things now, you never will. Because no amount of success, wealth, or achievement can make up for a life you forgot to actually live. So today, try this. Pause. Look around. Feel the moment you're in. Because these small things, they are the big things. Number 10. Your life is happening right now. Don't miss it. Let me tell you a story. A long time ago, before time had a name, The gods gathered in the heavens to create the greatest mystery of all, life. They sculpted the mountains, poured the rivers, and set the stars in motion. But before they gave humans the gift of existence, they debated one crucial question: where should we hide the meaning of life? If we leave it in the depths of the ocean, one god said, they will dive and retrieve it. If we place it atop the highest mountain, another added, they will climb and claim it. If we bury it beneath the earth, they will dig until they find it, mused a third. For a long time they pondered. Then the wisest of the gods spoke. Let us hide it in the one place they will never think to look, right in front of them, in each moment they live. And so the secret was placed in the simplest of things: a morning breeze, the sound of laughter, the feeling of sunlight on one's skin, the rhythm of a heartbeat. It was never lost, never locked away, never out of reach, but few would ever see it, because humans in their endless ambition were cursed with the habit of looking ahead. They would chase the future, believing happiness was somewhere beyond them. They would run endlessly toward a finish line that didn't exist. They would plan, prepare, dream, but forget to be alive right now. The man who slept through his own life. There was once a man who spent his days waiting. When he was young, he told himself, I'll be happy once I grow up. When he grew up, he said, I'll be happy once I find success. When he found success, he whispered, I'll be happy once I retire. And when he finally retired, he sat in his chair, looked back and realized he had slept through his entire life. He had spent every moment looking forward, always chasing, never arriving, and now time had run out. Life is not a rehearsal. Here's the truth. Your life is happening right now, not tomorrow, not in 5 years. Now, yet how many of us are living like we're just rehearsing? Like this moment is just a placeholder for something greater. We put off joy as if we have unlimited time. We tell ourselves, I'll enjoy life when I have more money, when I have more time, when I have fewer worries. But what if this moment, right now, is all there is? Marcus Aurelius wrote, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Not someday, now. So, stop waiting. Stop watching your life from the sidelines. This is the only show you get, and the curtains are already up. Breathe, feel, live, before it's too late. Number 11, the Candy Crush and World of Warcraft paradox. Why happiness isn't in the goal, but in the grind. There's a strange phenomenon that happens in gaming, one that perfectly mirrors real life, but most people don't even realize it. If you've ever played a game like Candy Crush or World of Warcraft, you've felt it. The thrill of the grind, the dopamine rush of leveling up, unlocking new gear, chasing after that next big reward. You tell yourself, once I get the best armor, the rarest weapon, the ultimate loadout, then I'll enjoy the game more. So you grind, you sacrifice sleep, strategize every move, push through the endless quests, and then, finally, you get it. The legendary sword, the maxed out stats, the perfect setup, and then, nothing. You stand there, staring at your character, fully equipped, fully upgraded, and you feel empty. The excitement is gone. There's nothing left to chase. You thought happiness was in the goal, but it was actually in the pursuit of it, the illusion of the finish line. This isn't just a gaming problem, it's a life problem. We do the exact same thing in reality. We tell ourselves, once I make 6 figures, I'll feel secure. Once I get that dream body, I'll be confident. Once I own a house, I'll be happy. And then we get there, and nothing changes. The excitement is temporary, the satisfaction fades, and suddenly we're looking for the next thing to chase. This is why so many rich, successful people still feel lost. They spent their entire lives grinding towards something, convinced it would fulfill them, only to find themselves standing at the top, asking, now what? The Stoics knew this well. Seneca wrote, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. Because the real trap isn't having too little, it's thinking you need more to be happy. The game you're actually playing. Here's the truth most people don't realize. You're not playing to win. You're playing to play. The fun isn't in reaching the max level. It's in the leveling process. The joy isn't in finally beating the game, it's in the journey of figuring it out. This is why people who retire early often feel miserable. They thought they were grinding toward a finish line, only to realize there is no finish line. The only way to truly enjoy life is to fall in love with the game itself. How to actually win the game of life. If you're always thinking, once I achieve X, I'll be happy, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Instead, enjoy the process. Love the training, not just the transformation. Stop rushing to the end. There is no final destination. Keep growing. The moment you stop progressing, you stop living. Because life is not a game you win, it's a game you play. And the second you stop playing, you lose. Number 12, 2 lessons that will change how you life. If you've been paying attention, you've probably realized by now, life doesn't get better when you reach some magical finish line. It gets better when you understand how to play the game. And if you want to truly enjoy this ride, there are 2 lessons you need to burn into your brain. Lesson 1, always have a goal to chase. The moment you stop striving for something, anything, you begin to decay. Humans are built for pursuit, not necessarily for massive, world-changing achievements, but for progress. Your goal doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be about money, fame, or success. It can be simple. Getting stronger, even if it's just adding 1 more push-up every day. Learning a new skill, not for money or validation, but for the joy of mastering something. Pushing yourself just 1% further today than you did yesterday. The key is movement. The moment you stop moving, you become stuck in the dead zone of existence, where every day feels the same, where nothing excites you, where life becomes a loop of meaningless repetition. You've seen this before. The retired executive who spent decades grinding for success, only to find himself depressed the moment he has nothing to do. The person who finally reaches their dream income, only to feel empty because they have no reason to keep pushing. The truth is, it's not the goal that matters. It's the act of pursuing something that gives life meaning. Lesson 2, you might already be living your dream life. Most people think their dream life is somewhere in the future. They think happiness is waiting for them at the next milestone, the next paycheck, the next relationship, the next upgrade. But what if I told you, you might already be living it? Seriously. Look at where you are right now. Are you working towards something? Are you learning, growing, improving, even just a little? If yes, then congratulations. You're living a meaningful life. Because the truth is, the dream life isn't about having everything. It's not about sitting on a beach with unlimited money. It's about waking up every day and knowing you're working towards something that matters to you. If you always believe happiness is 1 step ahead, you'll never reach it. But if you realize that meaning comes from the process, not the result, you'll see that you've already won. So stop waiting. Stop thinking you need some massive breakthrough before you allow yourself to be happy. You're in the game. You're making progress. And that's what a dream life actually looks like. The final truth. It took me 25+ years to realize this. Don't waste another day. For over 25 years, I believed the same lie that most people do. I thought happiness was something I had to earn, something waiting for me at the finish line. I thought that once I got fit, once I made money, once I achieved my goals, then I would finally feel at peace. I was wrong. It took me decades to understand this, but I'll give it to you in 10 minutes. Life is not something you postpone. Life is happening right now. And the biggest mistake you can make is waiting. Waiting for the perfect moment. Waiting until you feel ready. Waiting until everything falls into place. Because let me tell you, it never will. There will always be another challenge, another obstacle, another reason to delay. But the only real regret is looking back one day and realizing you spent your entire life waiting to live. So don't make the same mistake I did. Stop waiting for permission to be happy. Stop thinking that life begins after you achieve something. Start now, right here, with what you have. If this message hit you, take action. Drop a comment below. What have you been putting off? Or if you're done waiting, type, "I refuse to wait." And if you know someone who needs to hear this, like, share, and subscribe to Victory Stoic. Because more people need to wake up before it's too late. Now go, live.